What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be doing brakes on my Jeep, front and rear brakes. So I'll just go ahead and get right into it. You want to break the lug nuts loose before you lift the Jeep up, or the vehicle, whatever you're working on. You do that before you raise it up. Otherwise, you'll be turning on the lug nut and the whole wheel will just be spinning. Find a good jack point. Hopefully this jack's tall enough. You don't have to get it super high, just enough to get the wheels to spin. Remember, everybody, safety first. Always place your jack stands. I also have the wheels chocked. I'll show you that in a minute. So you want to get something. I happen to just have actual wheel chocks, but a brick or a big block of wood or something right there. That's all you need just to keep the vehicle from moving. Now I got my lug nuts loose. I got the vehicle jacked up. I can go ahead and finish removing these and take off the wheel. Once you get your wheel removed, you want to slide it kind of up under the vehicle just in case your jack stand fails and your jack fails. Your vehicle won't come completely down to the ground. Best place for this might be right over here, just behind my jack stand. And you want to make sure if your jack stand does fail and your brake or your jack fails and the vehicle comes down, you want to make sure the vehicle's not gonna land on the tire but the rim. It may damage the rim, it definitely will probably scratch it. But if you happen to be under the vehicle, it just might save your life. So our next step is to get the caliper off to get our brake pads out of it. There are 2 bolts on the back side. One there and one just down here. You have to remove them and the caliper should just come right off. It's probably going to be a 15 millimeter if it's metric. Chances are good it's metric. Oh, it's not metric, it's standard, it's a 1/2 inch. Let's see if I can do this without a hammer. Might help if I was going the right way too. Now your lug nuts and all your bolts and stuff, you're not going to want to put them in the dirt, so either stick them on the wheel or a box or something, just keep them out of the dirt. You don't want all that grit on the threads. Sometimes they're a little hard to pry off. Let me see if I can get a screwdriver in there. Well, these pads look pretty good. I was hearing a lot of scraping and grinding going on. I guess that was my rear brakes. Still got a lot of pad on these. Well, I'm going to leave these on. I'm going to just go ahead and go to the rear. Okay, everybody, we're back. I'm going to do the rear now. I haven't broke the lug nuts or anything loose yet. So we'll just go ahead and get started on jacking this up just a hair. I just want to get the jack seated. Then I'll break the lug nuts loose and finish jacking it up. Alright, got my jack seated. It's not up high enough where the rear wheels can move. This vehicle is rear wheel drive anyway, so as long as it's in park, the wheels shouldn't move too much. But it's not really good for your transmission. Also, you don't never want to take the lug nuts all the way off before you get weight off of this wheel, because that could just be a big problem. It looks like my jack point is not going to be high enough. My jack's not big enough. Oh, there it goes. Maybe. Nope. My jack's not tall enough for jacking up there. So I'll have to move the jack to another point. Much better. Again, never forget about safety. Alright, I've got my jack stand in place, and I went back here where the shock mounts from the body to the rear end. That's where I put my jack, because it was really the lowest point. So we'll go ahead and get this wheel off and see what the brakes look like back here, because I think a lot of that grinding I was hearing in the back. Just a little tip, when you got a 4-way lug wrench like this, I figure out which side fits the lugs, and I always keep this pointing the vehicle every time I lay it down somewhere. I'm also removing the lug nuts in a star pattern, and that's how you want to put them on. So I'm taking this one off. This one will be the next one. So I just took this one off. this one would be next. Then I'll come over here, then up here, and then that will be my last one. And then when you put them back on, it'll be a star pattern also. And if you're working on a vehicle with 4 lugs instead of 5, you'll just go crisscross. It probably wouldn't hurt to replace these rotors. There's a pretty big divot here. Also, you want to check your rotors while you're doing this anyway. Just run your finger across where the pads rub, just to make sure you don't feel any deep gouges or sharp spots that can really tear your brake pads up. And over a certain amount of time, there'll be a groove here. You can feel on the edges how much of the metal has been worn away. So these should be the same size, 1/2 inch. That bolt was a little hard to get out. The shock was in the way. There we go. That one was pretty stubborn. Alright, so now that I got the caliper off, all we got to do is pop out these old pads and just pop the new ones in. Well, we actually have to compress this cylinder here on the caliper so the new ones will fit in. These should just pop right out. Alright, that was really a pain in the butt. A lot more of a pain than it should have been. So these tabs fit in these little slots. It should just be springy enough to hold it in. I guess these were rusted to the point they were kind of stuck in. I'm not sure. But that shouldn't have been that hard to get out. So this part here is the actual brake pad. So these were wore down pretty good. All this from here over to here is the new pad. So they were wore down pretty good. So I just popped the bottom one out. You're going to have to put the, in order to get the bottom one out, I had to get the top off first, because it just kind of, these little teeth here pressed down in this hole. And with the top pad in, I couldn't get this one up far enough to get out. So you'll have to put the bottom one in first. Last in, or last out, first in. Yeah, just trying to make sure I got the right one. I didn't want to put the one for the passenger side on the driver's side, because that would be some dumb stuff I would do. There we go. Oh, well, I should have done this with the old pads still in there, but I can do it with the new one. We got to push this cylinder back in. Now, before you do this, you're going to want to probably go and take the cap off of your brake fluid reservoir. You really probably shouldn't have to, but I do it just in case there's any pressure or whatever. It may make the cylinder easier to press in. If you don't push this in, you're never going to get your new pads in. It's kind of a pain to get everything lined up. Now that I got that pressed down, that was sticking up probably about a ½ inch. So now that I got it pushed all the way back in, now I can get the other brake pad in. It just kind of slips on. I'm trying to get it to where you guys can see. There. Just like that. So this one's done. Now just pop it back in. This stuff's always easier said than done. Okay, so these parts here where the bolts go through, I guess they're kind of spring loaded, and that's what was hanging me up. They were actually, there's another rubber part here that was actually pushing in, and it was bumping up against this part, not letting me get it to slide in there. Once I figured that out, they just popped right in. So, oh my goodness. So they're in, ready to put my bolts back in and the tire back on. Now keep in mind, after you get all your brakes done, there's still, since you push them calipers all the way in, there's going to be a little bit of play in the brakes. So pump the brakes a few times before you start moving the vehicle. It'll get these calipers to readjust. Now these bolts here, they don't need to be super tight. You don't need to go beating on them with a hammer. Just as tight as you can get it by hand, it will be good enough. Alright, those are tight. Well, tight enough for me to set the jack down. Remove the jack stand. Now I can remove my jack. Now I can finish tightening these down. I believe this lug nut's stripped, so I'm gonna have to replace it. It's getting tight, but not real tight. Alright guys, so that's how you do the brakes. I'm gonna go do the other side without having to fool with the camera. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, leave a comment. See y'all later. God bless.